So let's talk about the Quant network. You think it can make a bull run comeback for 2025? I know the last 12 months for the Quant network have been dreadful. This is the lowest I've ever seen the Quant network since I've been in the space. Now, you could accredit that to the fact that the guys that used to cover the Quant network have changed their tone about it very much. They don't even cover it anymore. On top of that, the Quant network was really popular when the ISO 20022 narrative was very strong. As a matter of fact, in this video, I'm going to share with you how their work over the last 12 months is probably going to bring that back into the discussion. A lot of people think that that kind of faded away, but we know on this channel, because we were the #1 source for ISO coverage, that was a timeline that extended well into 2025 and 2026 for some countries. Now, looking at the price chart tells one story. I like how CoinMarketCap has this bullish indicator. 83% of people are still bullish on the Quant network, and I think it's because they have an understanding that fundamentally the Quant network is still about its business. What I want to share with you in this video, especially if you're new to Quant, this is perfect for you. Welcome. I want to talk about their relationship with UK Finance's regulated liability network. This was an experiment that they were a part of over the last 12 months that pretty much proved their Overledger, their flagship payment tool, can support a large-scale DLT payment network. It's good for programmability, tokenization, the whole nine. We're going to go through this and get a little bit of a history lesson for those that are new, because it's important to remember who all participated in this experiment. We got names like Barclays, Citi, HSBC, Lloyds Banking Group, MasterCard, NatWest, Santander, Standard Chartered, Virgin Money, and Visa. They were looking to set up a new type of financial market infrastructure that can deliver new capabilities for payments and settlement, including tokenization and programmability. Now, Quant, alongside R3, which is another prominent digital asset solutions provider, I'll call them that, alongside DXC Technologies and Coadjute, which I'm not as familiar with, but they were chosen as the technology partners for this experiment. This was back in April of this year. Quant specifically was involved with the implementation of the orchestration layer, which seamlessly connected the tokenization platform to different ledgers and integrated it with existing systems such as open banking, Project Rosalind, and simulated real-time gross settlement. Now, these three things are very important. For example, this summer, the Bank of England had an issue with their real-time gross settlement system, so much so that it was shutting down people's access to their money, right? There was a lot of that going on this summer, if I recall. Outside of that, Project Rosalind, this lends a little bit back to the days when Quant was at its peak in popularity. The discussions around ISO, the FedNow instant payment system, CBDCs, this was all really hot coming out of 2021 going into 2022. But when this was announced that the Quant network was a part of this huge project focused on central bank digital currencies alongside the Bank for International Settlements, I saw so many accounts pop up talking about how Quant is going to take over the world and they're working with this, that, and the third. It wasn't that big, but it was pretty important. They proved in this experiment that Quant's Overledger Gateway could be used to support a large-scale CBDC network, which includes retail payments in CBDC as well as wholesale. The details of who those participants would be, of course, haven't been disclosed. There is a CBDC tracker that you can find, that you can look at to show all of the Bank for International Settlements related projects. Once a decision is made on CBDCs, and when you know what the UK is actually closest to making a decision, then the Project Rosalind experiment, that's where its merit will show. Now, additionally, this open banking situation, this one was very interesting. So this morning, as I'm recording this video, a company out in the UK, looks like a financial services provider, software, something like that, Ozone API. They updated their models to fit with the UK open banking model for Open Banking Limited to reflect the 4.0 open banking standard. So clearly, This has been an open banking standard that has been in place for quite some time. This summer, however, they have adjusted it to meet some very interesting requirements. The changes known as open banking standards before were announced by OBL in early July and introduced some mandatory updates for the UK's CMA 9 banks, which required some to be completed as early as the 31st of this year, December 2024. Additionally, ISO 20022 is set for implementation by the 31st of March 2025, alongside the Bank of England's publication of mandatory updates to payment regulations. So they are pushing the needle on all fronts. What I want you to focus on is the ISO 20022 implementation timeline here. We learned that there are a list of countries that still need to implement. There are a list of countries that have already implemented, and you'll begin to start to see the differences in payment offerings and payment services. They'll be small, but if you spot them, then you know you're in the right direction. So the open banking standards, the Project Rosaline, and the addressing of the real-time gross settlements are all reasons why the Quant network's work with the UK and this regulated liability network is something you should definitely keep track of, because they're not finished. As a matter of fact, I believe this is down here. They're getting ready to do a hackathon in November. I don't have the tab saved, but they're doing a hackathon. They're inviting some more people. There may be another payment project working with the RLN very soon. Now, I was praising Quant's Overledger technology. Let's dive into that a little bit, because my favorite part of this tool is its ability to connect to other chains, bring other chains into the conversation. As you can see here, Overledger can connect you to Avalanche, Bitcoin, Ethereum, Hyperledger, Fabric, and Bezu, Polkadot, XDC, XRP, and more. And I also found this documentation here from 2022, actually, and it lists a couple more chains: Stellar, IOTA, EOS. I'd be interested to see if that's still connected, but the Quant and Stellar connection, I'm still looking for some concrete documentation on that. But the whole point of the Overledger is to create a standardized system that any DLT, that's the key there, DLT type network can plug and play into. So that really narrows things down, mainly to the coins that we have been paying the most attention to over the last few years: the Hederas, the Stellars, the XRPs. And no matter what XRP goes through, the technology, that's what's important here. But you can see here connections: IOTA, Stellar. Another name towards the left there, Quora. Now, if you don't know, Quora was owned by a certain bank called JP Morgan. Consensus picked them up, though, some time ago. Consensus is the company, at least to my knowledge, that is backing Ethereum, essentially. Joseph Lubin works there. But they picked up this blockchain network. This shows you that JP Morgan was getting ready to get involved with this, but I think they converted over to the Onyx blockchain. The key thing to know, though, this is the updated compatibility list. So we have Ethereum, Polygon, Avalanche, XDC, Polkadot, Ripple, and Bitcoin. And then, of course, the Hyperledger family right there, which is a whole another rabbit hole to go down if you really want to, blow a weekend. The Hyperledger protocol family, insane. It ties in with the original ISO protocol family that started to circulate in 2020. It was a graphic that showed Circle, Quant, XDC, Stellar, IOTA. Did I say Ripple? I did. And Algorand. It's very interesting, guys. I've been around a minute, seen a lot. So forgive me if sometimes that ADD kicks in. But yes, these are the compatible networks. And how it's set up is there's a sandbox and production environment. The sandbox is the testing phase. The production is everything hot that's live. So we'll start to see, as they test the Overledger, they have successful tests, more applications will start to run through it. And we'll see those applications first on test nets of these major chains, and then as part of their main net offering. Overledger is really putting on for all of crypto. That's another reason why, even though the price looks the way it does now, if you're looking at this from a long-term perspective, this Quant network is one of the key components, mainly because of that Overledger. Now, I want to dive a little bit into why Quant has such a pull on the UK, as well as what the UK is doing on the other side that is opening the door for Overledger and technologies like it to revolutionize finance. A couple months ago, Gilbert Verdian, the guy who basically created Quant, runs the whole business over there, he put out a call to action stating leadership was needed in the UK in order to push the needle forward for digital finance. Now, Gilbert Verdian is a name you may be familiar with because he spearheaded the creation of this ISO TC307 standard. And according to this PDF, which I was able to pull from my Google Drive dating all the way back to 2015, it shows his relationship and the formation of this standard and who he was right next to. You can see here in 2009, introduced the UK government to Bitcoin and blockchain. You can still find the presentation that Gilbert made. This one was a couple years after that particular date, 2015-ish, 2016. You type in Gilbert Verdian. I'll tell you the thumbnail because I can't remember the title in the moment, but he's standing in front of this red stage. It's lit up and he's breaking down the Overledger, ISO, the standard, everything in one presentation. If you are interested in Quant and you haven't watched that presentation, listen, you're missing something, that presentation. But this just shows you how far Gilbert Verdian, the Quant network, is tied with the UK, which adds emphasis to the work that they've done with that regulated liability network in the last 12 months. Now, outside of that, we got movement here. UK lawmakers introduced a bill to bring regulatory clarity on crypto. This is going to essentially make digital assets, cryptocurrencies, legal property, physical property. That's how they'll at least be registered in the courts over in the UK, similar to how the IRS does it over here in the United States. And there's been some headway in this particular direction. UK court rules Tether is property in first English law post-trial crypto ruling. This popped up in my news feed during my hiatus. This was very funny story. It made me laugh, honestly, because it's simply a domestic situation involving a breakdown of the divvy down of some assets, and somebody had some Tether. And through that process, the judge had to decide that Tether, the Tether that was in the possession of the person, was physical property. Thus, by that definition, it would define a crypto asset, a digital asset, which is what Tether is, as a form of property. So that will make things a lot more attractive, especially to newer investors. So let's root for that to go through. Outside of that, Visa and WireX partner on digital currency use in Europe and the UK. Listen, anything Visa puts its hands on is going up. Just know that. Now, here's a story that really pulled me into this, brought this whole thing together. Digital security Sandbox opens in UK to steer take up of innovative technologies. This is a collaboration between the Bank of England and the Financial Conduct Authority. This digital security sandbox has been created to enable regulators to curate the take-up of digital asset technology in financial markets, a space witnessing mounting levels of private sector interest. Essentially, this is going to bring together companies from the public and private sector to experiment, play with DLT technologies. And they want to create a securities market around these technologies. And some of the instruments that would be issued and traded in the DSS include equities, corporate and government bonds, money market instruments such as commercial paper, and certificates of deposits. Now, we're going to pause here because check this out. Just last month, UK regulated Liability Network to experiment with digital pound as tokenized deposits. Yes, they are one in the same. So the UK is getting ready to do this on a national level. And you'll see I have highlighted down at the bottom, this is only for companies legally established in the United Kingdom. Well, Quant just so happens to be legally established in the United Kingdom. So obviously, after the testing results from Project Rosalie, after the results from the regulated liability network, which the Bank of England was a witness of, you don't think Quant is going to be involved with this digital security sandbox. It only makes sense. If they were handling their business properly, this would be the next move that they would make. And I think they will. The key thing to remember here, guys, is that not everybody knows about this stuff yet. I'm just going to be honest with you. I know everybody else's videos is full of the flash and graphics and all of that shit, but I'm keeping this thing on a real level. All right, I'm going to do my best to keep this on a real level because it's changing. It is happening. I find it to be so fascinating that every time I do take some time away from crypto, back away a little bit, the pulse never dies. It's still a boatload of PDFs coming out this week. You guys saw the Marketo report where I showed you the changes in consumer behavior. Like, this is really getting large. As a matter of fact, let's jump to that because I don't think I did. This is coming from this article here. UK consumers lead global shift to digital payments. Nearly 70% of Brits are comfortable leaving physical wallets at home versus 53% of Americans. This 2024 State of Payments report, this was the one published by, Marketo. Now, I got a couple pieces I'm going to share with you, but here's the breakdown. Essentially, 80% of UK respondents reported using contactless payments in the past week. In comparison, 69% of Australians and 46% of US respondents said the same. So there's a large difference there. That 80% represents an appetite from UK consumers for faster digital payments. And when I was digging into the Marketo report, right here, page 28, this is a chart showing over the last 7 days, 90 days, 30 days, 12 months, the purchasing behavior of the people they surveyed. You can see 70% have used their debit card, 66% towards credit. Cash and contactless payments are 60 and 60. They're neck and neck. I can tell you, when I first got into this space, that number was vastly different. There was a huge gap. But again, it shows that there is an appetite out here for a new, more efficient digital payment system. And this one blew my mind here. I'm going to jump back to page 19, where they talk about accelerated wage access. They surveyed gig workers, self-employed people, and a few employees across the UK, United States, and Australia. What you're looking at are numbers of people who would prefer accelerated wage access or instant access to their pay after they clock out. So as soon as you get done off of work, you can get paid that day. Chime just introduced their unrolled a feature called MyPay, which allows you to access your paycheck before it happens. There were a few apps that do that too. Dave is one of them. Albert. They all have strange names. The point is, though, this again shows an appetite for the assets that we are investing in. So that pulse has not died. It has not gone anywhere. And I understand that the price chart says one thing, but you have to keep this in mind when you're looking at the price of an asset that you feel in your gut just makes sense. Not a lot of people are aware of this technology, even though it is already up to, and I was going to bring this up in a different video, but crypto adoption is nearly 500 million people, right? It took the internet 10 years to reach that same point. We did it in 8. And like I said, the pulse ain't going nowhere. People want these technologies. So I definitely see us reaching 1.1 billion by year 10. Between 8 and 10, that's a bull market. Being in the last bull market, I can tell you, bull markets bring in mainstream energy. It brings in Super Bowl commercial energy. It brings in The Good Wife, CBS primetime TV show energy. Just give it some time, y'all. All right. Now, With that, that's all I got. Again, thanks you for rocking with me during this time. If you're new, thanks for tuning in. I've been in the space since 2019, and there are only a few tools that I use every day to navigate this crypto space. I have them linked in the pinned comment below. With that, y'all know what time it is. If that money is digital, so is the hustle.